Warlord Thekmor made his choice. After 30 years of military service and dozens of successful campaigns, he did something no Vrikari commander had ever done before. He surrendered without firing a shot. All ships stand down weapons, he commanded. Maintain defensive positions but do not target the human vessel. The response from his fleet was immediate confusion. Hundreds of voices flooded the communication channels demanding explanations. How could their mighty warlord surrender to a single enemy ship? Thekmor ignored them all. His science officers had shown him data that changed everything. The human ship wasn't just superior to his fleet. It was superior by margins that shouldn't be possible. On the defiant dawn, Admiral Lee Taeho watched the Vrikari fleet lower their weapons. Around him, his crew maintained their positions ready for anything. Admiral, Communications Officer Shin Yun-kyung reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the Vrikari flagship. The warlord is requesting permission to come aboard." Taeho considered the request. It was unprecedented. Vrikari commanders never showed weakness, never admitted defeat. The fact that Thekmor was willing to board an enemy ship meant he had finally understood the reality of his situation. "Permission granted," Taeho said. "Full diplomatic protocols." Captain Park So-min looked surprised. "Sir, are you sure that's wise?" "It's necessary, Captain. The galaxy needs to understand what's happening here." An hour later, Warlord Thekmor materialized in the Defiant Dawn's transporter bay. He was a massive figure, even for a Vrikari, with the scars of a dozen battles marking his armored hide. But as he looked around the human ship, Taeho could see uncertainty in his eyes. "Welcome aboard, Warlord," Taeho said formally. "I'm Admiral Lee Taeho." Thekmor studied the human admiral. Taeho was smaller than most Vrikari, but there was something in his bearing that spoke of experience with real warfare. "Your ship is not what it appears to be," Thekmor said bluntly. "No, it's not. The weapons signatures my science officers detected. They're not in any coalition database. No, they're not." Thekmor's frustration was obvious. "Then explain to me how a single human vessel can threaten my entire fleet." Taeho gestured for the warlord to follow him. They walked through corridors that seemed normal at first glance, but Thekmor's trained eye noticed the subtle differences. The hull plating was thicker than standard. The power conduits were larger. The whole ship hummed with energy that felt dangerous. They entered a secure briefing room where holographic displays showed images that made Thekmor's blood freeze. Ships unlike anything in the galaxy, twisted and alien. Weapons that could destroy planets. Battles fought in systems that didn't appear on any star chart. 15 years ago, Taeho began, humanity encountered an enemy from beyond our galaxy. They called themselves the Void Hunters. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything the Coalition possessed. Thekmor stared at the images. "What happened to them?" "We destroyed them. All of them. It took 8 years and cost us millions of lives. But we made sure they could never threaten the galaxy again." "You fought this war alone?" "We had to. The Coalition races weren't ready for that kind of conflict. Knowledge of the Void Hunters would have caused panic, chaos. So we fought in secret and let the galaxy believe we were just another peaceful species." Thekmor was beginning to understand. "The battle scars on your ship, from fights against enemies that could have conquered the entire Coalition in weeks. We learned from them, adapted their technology, made it our own." Taeho touched a control and the hologram showed the Defiant Dawn's true specifications. "This ship could destroy your entire fleet without taking significant damage." The magnitude of humanity's deception was staggering. While the galaxy saw them as newcomers to space travel, they had actually been its secret guardians for over a decade. On Earth, Premier An Dong-hyun stood before an emergency session of the Coalition Council. For the first time in galactic history, every member species was represented. The events at New Jeju had their complete attention. "Members of the Coalition," he began, "I come before you today to reveal truths that humanity has kept hidden for 15 years. The holographic displays throughout the chamber showed images from the Void Hunter War. Silent gasps echoed from delegates as they saw the true scope of the threat humanity had faced alone. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hee watched from her seat as the galaxy learned about humanity's greatest sacrifice. Ships that had died protecting worlds their crews had never seen. Soldiers who had given their lives for species that didn't even know they existed. For 8 years, Premier An continued, human forces fought a war that would have destroyed galactic civilization. We chose secrecy not from arrogance but from necessity. The coalition wasn't ready for total war. The Altarian delegate stood up, his blue skin pale with shock. How many of your people died? 3.7 million military personnel, 12 million civilians on colonies that were attacked before we could protect them. The number hung in the air like a judgment. Humanity had paid a price in blood that dwarfed any conflict in galactic history, and they had done it to protect species that had called them paranoid and inexperienced. Back on the Defiant Dawn, Warlord Thekmor was struggling to process what he had learned. Your weapons, your defenses, your ship designs, they're all based on this enemy technology? Improved versions, yes. We learned from the best teachers in the galaxy. Unfortunately, they were trying to kill us at the time. And you never told the coalition? Would you have believed us? A young species claiming to have defeated an enemy that could destroy the entire galaxy. Tejo shook his head. We decided to let our actions speak for themselves. Thekmor looked at the tactical displays showing his fleet, still frozen in space by the revelation of humanity's true capabilities. My people thought we were the strongest military force in the galaxy. You are. After us. The simple statement wasn't boastful or threatening. It was just fact, delivered with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen real war. Dr. Choi Min-ho watched from his research station as more human ships began arriving in the new Jeju system. Each vessel bore the same battle scars, the same hidden power as the Defiant Dawn. The galaxy was seeing humanity's true fleet for the first time. Veltar, he said to his assistant, we need to update every database in Coalition space. Everything we thought we knew about human capabilities was wrong. On the surface of New Jeju, Commander Han Jae-sung received new orders. Instead of preparing for evacuation, his Marines were now coordinating with Coalition security forces to establish the planet as a joint training facility. Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-soo couldn't hide his smile. Sir, does this mean we can finally talk about our service records? Some of them, Han replied. The galaxy needs to understand what we've been protecting them from. The transformation was happening across human space. Ships that had operated in secret for years began revealing their true capabilities. Bases that officially didn't exist opened their doors to Coalition inspectors. Technologies that had been hidden were shared with allied species, but humanity was careful about what they revealed. The full extent of their capabilities remained classified. The galaxy was learning that humans were its protectors, but they weren't ready to learn just how dangerous those protectors could be. Warlord Thekmor stood in the Defiant Dawn's observation deck, watching his fleet through the transparent aluminum windows. His ships looked different now, smaller somehow. The universe had suddenly become a much more complex place. What happens now? He asked Admiral Tejo. Now you go home and tell your people what you've learned. The galaxy has been at peace because humanity has been willing to fight for that peace. And if other threats appear, enemies like these void hunters? Tejo's expression grew serious. Then humanity will face them just like we always have. But this time we won't fight alone. As the Vrkari fleet began its withdrawal from New Jeju, a new era began for galactic civilization. Humanity had stepped out of the shadows, revealing themselves as the guardians they had always been. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the dark spaces between the stars, other threats stirred, unaware that the species they considered weak had already proven itself against enemies far worse than anything they could imagine. The Defiant Dawn remained on patrol, carrying its secrets toward whatever challenges the future might bring. Behind it, the galaxy continued its peaceful routine, now knowing who had been protecting them all along. The truth about the Defiant Dawn began 15 years earlier, in a place the galaxy had never heard of. Admiral Lee Tejo remembered that day clearly. He had been a young captain then, commanding a standard Coalition-class cruiser on what should have been a routine survey mission in the Void sector. Instead, they had encountered something that changed everything. The enemy had come from beyond the galaxy, through tiers in space itself. They called themselves the Void Hunters, and their technology was centuries ahead of anything the Coalition possessed. Their ships were living metal that could repair itself. Their weapons could destroy planets. The first human ship to encounter them lasted exactly 7 minutes. Now, as the Defiant Dawn approached the Vrkari fleet, Tejo could still see the scars from that war on his ship's hull. Each mark told a story of battles fought in secret, victories won at terrible cost, and losses that could never be officially recorded. In the engineering section, Kim Dong-woo watched the modified quantum drive systems that powered their ship. The technology wasn't entirely human. It had been reverse-engineered from Void Hunter Rex, studied and improved over years of desperate fighting. Dong-woo, Lee Junki said quietly, the crew deserves to know what this ship really is. No, Dong-woo replied, making adjustments to the alien components hidden within human casings. The galaxy isn't ready for that truth. Maybe it never will be. The Void Hunter War had lasted 8 years. Humanity fought alone. Because they couldn't risk other species learning about the threat. The coalition races were peaceful, unprepared for total war. Knowledge of the Void Hunters would have caused panic across the galaxy. So humans died in secret. They fought battles that officially never happened. They developed weapons and defenses that couldn't exist in any public database. Ships like the Defiant Dawn were built from the wreckage of humanity's greatest enemy. On the Vrakari flagship, Warlord Thekmor was losing control of his fleet. Ship after ship reported impossible sensor readings from the human vessel. His own science officers were beginning to question everything they thought they knew about galactic military capabilities. "My lord," Science Officer Nektul reported, his voice shaking, "I've completed a full analysis of the human ship. The results are disturbing." "Explain." "The vessel shows evidence of combat against weapons we've never seen. The hull scarring suggests battles against energy types that don't exist in coalition databases. The ship has survived encounters that would have destroyed our entire fleet." Thekmor stared at the tactical display showing the approaching human ship. "You're saying they've fought wars we don't know about?" "That's the only explanation that makes sense, my lord." Across the galaxy, other pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. On Earth, Admiral Hwang Mi-young stood in the classified section of Fleet Command, surrounded by evidence of humanity's secret war. The walls were covered with images of Void Hunter ships, their twisted forms unlike anything in the galaxy. Technical specifications showed weapons that could crack moons in half. Battle reports detailed engagements where human ships had fought against odds that made the current Vrakari threat look manageable. "Sir," her aide Commander Ryu Haiwan said, "the Coalition Council is demanding answers about the situation at New Jeju." "What kind of answers?" "They want to know how one human ship can threaten an entire Vrakari fleet." Huang turned to look at a memorial wall listing the names of humans who had died fighting the Void Hunters. Thousands of names, all officially listed as training accidents or equipment failures. "Tell them," she said finally, "that they're about to learn some things about humanity that might surprise them." On the research station above New Jeju, Dr. Choi had made connections that terrified him. The energy signatures from the human ship matched wreckage he had studied years earlier, debris that had been classified beyond any security level he had clearance for. "Veltar," he said to his assistant, "I need you to send an encrypted message to Coalition Intelligence. What should I tell them?" "Tell them that the humans have been hiding something. Something big." Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai received the message from Dr. Choi while she sat alone in the Coalition Council chambers. She read it twice, then activated her secure communication link to Earth. Premier An Dong-hyun's face appeared on her screen. Behind him, she could see the flags of Earth's unified government, but she also noticed something else. Battle standards from military units that didn't officially exist. "The secret is out," she told him. "They're starting to figure it out." "Good," An replied. "It's time the galaxy knew the truth. All of it? As much as they can handle. The Vrakari threat has forced our hand. We can't protect them if they don't understand what we're protecting them from." On the Defiant Dawn, the crew prepared for what might be the most important moment in galactic history. Chief Petty Officer Bae Sung-min stood at his weapon station, his hands resting on controls that could unleash devastation beyond imagination. "Sir," he reported to the bridge, "all Void Hunter derivative weapons are online and ready." Captain Park So-min nodded. She had served on 3 different ships during the Secret War. She had seen planets die and stars go dark. The weapons they carried now were humanity's promise that it would never happen again. Lieutenant Kang Yu-jin monitored their approach to the Vrakari fleet. "Admiral, they're not moving. 800 ships and they're just sitting there." "They're scared," Admiral Taeho said simply. "They're finally beginning to understand." In the marine sections of the ship, Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-soo briefed his soldiers on what they might face. These weren't ordinary Marines. They were veterans of battles against enemies that officially didn't exist. "Remember," he told them, We're not just fighting for New Jeju. We're showing the galaxy what humans are really capable of. The truth was spreading through the Vrikari fleet like wildfire. Ship after ship confirmed the impossible readings. The human vessel possessed technology that surpassed their understanding, weapons that could destroy their entire armada, defenses that could withstand anything they could throw at it. Warlord Thekmor found himself facing a choice no Vrikari commander had ever confronted. His enemy was smaller, outnumbered 800 to 1, but somehow more dangerous than anything his species had ever encountered. "My lord," Groktar said quietly, "our fleet is requesting orders." Thekmor looked out at the approaching human ship. It moved with confidence, showing no fear of his massive fleet. It was the movement of a predator that knew it was the most dangerous thing in the system. "Open a communication channel to the human ship," he said finally. "My lord, do it." The face that appeared on his screen was calm, composed, and completely unafraid. Admiral Lee Tae-ho looked like a man who had seen worse things than Vrikari invasion fleets. "I am Admiral Lee Tae-ho of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "You have threatened peaceful colonists. Withdraw your fleet immediately." "I am Warlord Thekmor," he replied, trying to maintain his authority. "You face 800 warships with a single vessel. Surrender now and your crew will be spared." Tae-ho smiled, and something in that smile made Thekmor's blood run cold. "Warlord, you have no idea what you're really facing. This is your only warning. Leave the system now." The transmission ended, leaving Thekmor staring at an empty screen. Around him, his officers waited for orders that he suddenly wasn't sure he should give. The human ship continued its approach, carrying secrets that would change the galaxy forever. The Defiant Dawn dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Jeju system, like a shadow materializing from nothing. For a moment, there was only silence. On his flagship, Warlord Thekmor studied the human vessel through his tactical displays. It was large for a human ship, but still tiny compared to his massive fleet. Dark hull, angular design, no obvious weapon ports. It looked almost peaceful. "One ship," he said to his officers. They sent one ship against 800. His tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Groktar, seemed less amused. "My lord, our sensors are detecting some unusual energy signatures from the human vessel." "What kind of signatures?" "Unknown, my lord. The readings don't match anything in our database." Thekmor dismissed the concern with a wave. "Human technology is primitive. Your sensors are probably confused by their inferior power systems." But Groktar wasn't satisfied. He had served in the Vrikari military for 30 years, fighting in dozens of campaigns. His instincts told him something was wrong. On the Defiant Dawn, Admiral Lee Tae-ho stood calmly on his bridge, watching the Vrikari fleet spread across space like a metal storm. His crew worked with quiet efficiency around him. "Captain Park, implement Protocol 7, he said. Park So-min's eyes widened slightly. Protocol 7 was classified at the highest levels. Most of the crew didn't even know it existed. "Sir, are you sure?" "Execute the protocol, Captain." Park began entering commands at her station. Throughout the ship, hidden systems began powering up. Panels that looked decorative slid away to reveal weapon arrays that didn't appear in any coalition database. The ship's hull began to shimmer as defensive fields activated. In the engineering section, Kim Dong-woo watched his modified quantum drive systems come online. The power readings were incredible, far beyond anything the coalition thought was possible. His hands moved over controls that were both familiar and alien. "Dong-woo," his assistant Lee Junki called out. "The containment fields are holding, but barely. Are you sure this is safe?" "Nothing about this is safe," Dong-woo replied. "But it's necessary." Chief Petty Officer Bae Sung-min stood in the weapons control center, his experienced hands moving over systems that had been hidden for years. As a veteran of battles the galaxy knew nothing about, he understood what they were really facing. "Weapons charged and ready, sir," he reported to the bridge. All systems showing green. Lieutenant Kang Yu-jin, the navigation officer, watched her screens with growing amazement. The ship's true capabilities were beyond anything she had imagined. "Admiral, our stealth systems are fully operational. We could disappear from their sensors completely." "No," Tae-ho said firmly. "I want them to see us. I want them to understand." Dr. Choi Min-ho watched from the research station as the human ship approached the Vrikari fleet. He had every sensor pointed at the Defiant Dawn, trying to understand what he was seeing. "The energy readings are impossible," he whispered to his assistant. "That ship is generating more power than a small star." "Could your instruments be malfunctioning?" Veltar asked. "I've checked 3 times." The readings are correct. Dr. Choi paused, studying the data. But if they're correct, then everything we know about human technology is wrong. Aboard the Vrkari flagship, the confusion was growing. Science Officer Nektul had run diagnostics on all their sensors twice. The readings from the human ship didn't make sense. The vessel appears to be heavily armed, he reported to Warlord Thekmore. But the weapon signatures don't match any known technology. Impossible. Human weapons are inferior plasma cannons and primitive missiles. My lord, these readings suggest weapons that could destroy our entire fleet. Thekmore turned to stare at his science officer. Are you telling me that one human ship could defeat 800 Vrkari warships? I'm telling you that our sensors say it could, my lord. But that can't be right. Throughout the Vrkari fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Ship after ship reported the same impossible readings. The small human vessel was showing energy outputs that surpassed their understanding. Commander Han Jae-sung stood on the surface of New Jeju, watching the sky through a tactical viewer. Even from the planet's surface, he could see the human ship moving through the Vrkari formation. Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-soo joined him. Sir, do you think one ship can really make a difference? Oh, you've served with human fleet forces before, right? Yes, sir. 3 years on the destroyer Iron Will. Did you ever wonder why our ships have battle scars but no official combat records? Oh, thought about it. Every human military vessel he had served on showed signs of combat, but their service records only listed patrol duties and training exercises. I assumed it was classified, sir. It is. Very classified. On the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, tactical displays showed the Vrkari fleet's growing confusion. Their formation was beginning to waver as ship commanders demanded explanations from their superiors. They're scared, Captain Park observed. They should be, Admiral Taeho replied quietly. Communications Officer Shin Yun-kyung looked up from her station. Admiral, the Vrkari communications are going crazy. I'm detecting panic in their fleet channels. What are they saying? They're trying to understand our power readings. Some of their captains are requesting permission to withdraw. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hae watched from the coalition headquarters as reports came in from New Jeju. The impossible was happening. A single human ship was causing an entire Vrkari invasion fleet to hesitate. Her communication device rang. It was Premier An Dong-hyun, the leader of Earth's government. Ji-hye, I need you to be ready, he said. What's happening at New Jeju is going to change everything. What do you mean? The galaxy is about to learn some truths about humanity. Truths we've kept hidden for a very long time. Warlord Thekmore stood on his bridge staring at tactical displays that made no sense. His science officers had run every test they could think of. The results were always the same. The human ship possessed enough firepower to destroy his entire fleet. It has to be some kind of trick, he insisted. A sensor illusion. Humans don't have weapons like this. But deep down, doubt was growing. The Vrkari had built their reputation on superior technology and overwhelming force. What if they had been wrong about human capabilities? My lord, Groktar said carefully, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. Reconsider? We have 800 ships. Yes, my lord. But if their sensors are accurate, they have something we've never encountered before. For the first time in his military career, Warlord Thekmore felt uncertain. The human ship continued its steady approach, showing no fear, no hesitation. It moved like a predator that knew it was the most dangerous thing in the system. On the research station, Dr. Choi made a discovery that sent chills down his spine. He had been analyzing the electromagnetic signatures from the human ship, comparing them to his database of known technologies. Veltar, look at this, he said, his voice shaking. These energy patterns. I've seen them before. Where? In wreckage we found in the void sector. Debris from ships that didn't belong to any known species. Dr. Choi's hands trembled as he accessed classified files. The human ship is using technology from outside our galaxy. Across the Vrkari fleet, an eerie quiet began to settle. Ship after ship stopped transmitting as their crews realized they might be facing something far beyond their understanding. The silence was broken only by the steady approach of the Defiant Dawn, carrying secrets that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Warlord Thekmore finally spoke, his voice no longer filled with confidence. All ships maintain defensive positions. Do not attack without my direct order. For the first time in Vrkari history, their mighty fleet waited in fear of a single enemy vessel. The peaceful morning on New Jeju Colony ended when the sky tore open. Dr. Choi Min-ho was drinking coffee at the research station when the alarms started screaming. Through the large windows of the orbital facility, he watched in horror as space itself seemed to bend and twist. Then the ships appeared. 847 Virakari warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Each vessel was massive, bristling with weapons and armor plating. The largest ship in the center was 3 times the size of anything in the Coalition fleet. "Dear God," whispered Dr. Choi's assistant, a young Altarian named Veltar. "What are they doing here?" Dr. Choi was already moving toward the communication station. As a xenobiologist, he had studied the Virakari for years. He knew their language, their culture, their way of thinking. What he saw in space above New Jeju terrified him. On the bridge of the Virakari flagship Bone Crusher, Warlord Thekmor looked down at the peaceful colony world with satisfaction. The planet was home to 3 million beings from a dozen different species. Humans, Altarians, Centaurians, and others lived together in harmony. It disgusted him. "Open communications to all frequencies," Thekmor commanded. His voice was deep and harsh like grinding metal. "Let every weak creature in this system hear my words." The transmission went out on every channel, reaching every ship, every station, every settlement in the New Jeju system. Thekmor's scarred face appeared on screens throughout the colony. "I am Warlord Thekmor of the Virakari Empire. For too long, the humans have pretended to belong among the stars. For too long, they have occupied worlds that should belong to stronger species." He paused, letting his words sink in. "The humans have 48 hours to abandon all territory beyond their original solar system. Any human found outside Earth's boundaries after that time will be destroyed. Any species that helps them will share their fate." The transmission ended, leaving 3 million colonists in stunned silence. Dr. Choi immediately began sending emergency messages to Coalition headquarters. His hands shook as he typed, but his mind remained clear. The Virakari weren't bluffing. In his years of studying them, he had learned that they never made empty threats. Meanwhile, the Coalition defense fleet in the New Jeju system was pathetically small. 23 ships, mostly science vessels and patrol craft. Against 800 Virakari warships, they might as well have been toys. Commander Han Jae-sung stood in the Marine barracks on New Jeju's surface, addressing his soldiers. They were humans, all of them, part of the small Marine contingent that kept peace on the colony. There were only 200 Marines on the entire planet. "Listen up," Han said, his voice steady despite the situation. "We all saw the fleet up there. We all heard the ultimatum. Command says evacuation ships are on the way, but they won't arrive for at least 30 hours. Sergeant Major Oh Kyung-soo, a veteran with 20 years of service, stepped forward. "Sir, what about the civilians? 3 million people can't be evacuated in 18 hours. "I know, Sergeant Major, that's why we're not evacuating." The Marines looked at each other in surprise. Oh raised an eyebrow. "Sir?" "We're Marines," Han said simply. "We protect people. That's what we do." Across the galaxy, Coalition leaders were panicking. Emergency sessions were called on every major world. The Altarian Republic immediately began withdrawing their ships from human space. The Centauri Federation announced they would not interfere in human problems. Even species that had been friendly to humanity started distancing themselves. Ambassador Yoon Ji-hai found herself alone in the Coalition Council chambers. The other delegates had left, claiming urgent business on their home worlds. She sat at the long, curved table and wondered if humanity had any friends left. Her communication device chimed. A message from Earth Defense Command. All human vessels ordered to withdraw from threatened sectors. Do not engage Virakari forces. Repeat, do not engage. Ji-hai closed her eyes. She understood the reasoning. Humanity couldn't fight 800 Virakari ships and win. It was simple mathematics. But mathematics didn't account for 3 million innocent people who would die if the humans abandoned them. In deep space, the Defiant Dawn received the same orders. Admiral Lee Tae-ho read the message twice, then deleted it. "Admiral?" Captain Park So-min asked. She had seen his expression and knew he was making a difficult decision. "How long until we reach New Jeju?" Tae-ho asked. 6 hours at maximum speed. "And how long do the colonists have left?" 42 hours until the Virakari deadline. Tae-ho walked to the viewing screen and stared out at the stars. Behind him, his bridge crew waited silently. They all knew what he was thinking. One human ship against 800 Virakari warships was suicide. Communications Officer Shin Yun-kyung spoke up. "Admiral, I'm receiving distress calls from New Jeju, civilian channels. They're asking for help. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was young, female, and terrified. "This is Sarah Kim at New Jeju Medical Center. We have patients who can't be moved. Children in intensive care. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. We need time." Tae-ho closed his eyes. When he opened them, his decision was made. Captain Park signaled the crew. "All hands to battle stations." "Sir, our orders." "Our orders are to protect human colonies and civilians, Captain." "That's exactly what we're going to do." So-min nodded and began giving commands. Throughout the ship, Marines like Oh Kyung-soo prepared their weapons. Engineers like Kim Dong-woo powered up systems that the coalition had never seen. Technicians like Lee Jun-ki ran final checks on equipment that officially didn't exist. In the research station above New Jeju, Dr. Choi intercepted a coalition military transmission. A single human ship was approaching the system. The Defiant Dawn would arrive in 5 hours. "One ship?" Veltar asked in disbelief. "Against 800? Dr. Choi didn't answer immediately. He had studied human military history along with their biology. He knew about their wars, their strategies, their refusal to abandon their own people. "The humans have a saying," he said finally. "Never tell me the odds." Warlord Thekmore received reports of the approaching human ship with amusement. One vessel against his entire fleet was either an act of incredible bravery or incredible stupidity. He decided it was probably both. "Let them come," he told his officers. "When we destroy their ship in front of the colony, the humans will understand that resistance is useless." What Thekmore didn't know was that his own intelligence officers were already beginning to worry. They had been analyzing coalition databases, trying to learn more about human military capabilities. The information they found didn't match what they expected. The humans had been in space for less than 200 years, but their ships were surprisingly advanced. Their weapons were more powerful than they should be. Their defenses were stronger than any new species should possess. Most disturbing of all, there were gaps in the human fleet records. Ships that appeared and disappeared without explanation, technologies that seemed to come from nowhere, but it was too late for second thoughts. The Vrkari fleet was committed to their course of action. In 5 hours, they would face whatever the humans sent against them. The Defiant Dawn raced through hyperspace toward New Jeju, carrying the hopes of 3 million colonists and the reputation of humanity itself. Admiral Lee Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The massive ship moved quietly through space, its dark hull reflecting nothing. Most people in the galaxy thought humans were still new to space travel. They were wrong, but Tae-ho never corrected them. "Admiral, we're getting reports from the border systems," said Captain Park So-min, walking up to him with a data pad. She had been his second in command for 8 years, and he trusted her completely. "The Vrkari are moving ships again." Tae-ho took the pad and read through the intelligence reports. The Vrkari Empire was known throughout the galaxy for their huge war fleets and their love of fighting. They had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the Galactic Coalition. Even now, they kept testing boundaries, seeing how far they could push. "How many ships this time?" Tae-ho asked. "Our scouts count at least 400 vessels," So-min replied. "Maybe more." "They're gathering near the Kepler Station sector." Tae-ho frowned. Kepler Station was close to human space. Too close. He handed the pad back to So-min and walked to his command chair. Around them, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. Most of them had no idea what their ship really was. In the engineering section far below, Kim Dong-woo was working on the ship's special systems. The other engineers thought he was just maintaining the normal engines. They didn't know about the hidden modifications he had been making for months. The quantum drive that powered their ship was unlike anything the Galactic Coalition had ever seen. "Commander Nam," Tae-ho called to his intelligence officer. Nam Hyun-woo looked up from his station. "What do our friends in the Coalition think about this Vrkari buildup?" Nam's face showed his frustration. "They're not taking it seriously, Admiral. Ambassador Chen from the Altarian Republic called our concerns typical human paranoia. The Centauri delegate said we're too new to understand galactic politics. And the Coalition military? They think the Vrkari are just showing off. Standard posturing, they call it." Tae-ho wasn't surprised. The Coalition had enjoyed peace for 200 years. They had forgotten what real war looked like. Humans hadn't. Humans remembered very well. On the planet New Geneva, Ambassador Yoon Ji-hae sat in another boring coalition meeting. The delegates from 12 different species argued about trade routes and mining rights. None of them wanted to talk about the Vrikari threat. "The humans are overreacting," said the tall, blue-skinned delegate from Rigel Prime. "The Vrikari haven't attacked anyone in 50 years. They're members of the coalition now. Members who keep building warships," Ji-hae replied calmly. "Members who test their weapons near peaceful colonies. All coalition species maintain defense fleets," the Rigelian answered. "It's their right," Ji-hae wanted to laugh. "Defense fleets. If only they knew what real defense looked like. If only they knew what humanity had been defending them from." Back on the Defiant Dawn, the communication officer Shin Yun-kyung picked up something interesting. She had been monitoring Vrikari military channels, using translation software that the coalition thought was impossible. The Vrikari used complex encryption, but human computers were better than anyone realized. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Yun-kyung said. She played the intercepted message through the bridge speakers. The Vrikari words came through as rough, mechanical sounds, but the translation was clear. "The soft mammals think they belong among the stars. Time to show them their place. Operation Thunderstrike begins in 7 cycles." The bridge fell silent. Operation Thunderstrike wasn't in any coalition database. This was something new, something the Vrikari were planning in secret. "Get me Fleet Command," Taeho ordered. "Priority 1. Within minutes, he was speaking directly to Admiral Hwang Mi-young at Earth Defense Command. Her weathered face appeared on the main screen, and Taeho could see the concern in her eyes. "Taeho, we've been monitoring the Vrikari movements too," she said. "It looks like they're planning something big." "How big?" "Intelligence suggests they're gathering the largest fleet in coalition history. Maybe 800 ships or more." Taeho felt his stomach tighten. 800 ships was an invasion force, not a defensive fleet. "What are our orders?" "Continue your patrol route. Watch and report. Don't engage unless attacked." "Admiral, with respect, if they have 800 ships, I know, Taeho, but we can't be the ones to start a war. The coalition would never forgive us." The transmission ended, leaving Taeho staring at the empty screen. Around him, his crew waited for orders. They trusted him to keep them safe, to make the right decisions. But what was the right decision when the galaxy thought you were weak? In his engineering workshop, Kim Dong-woo made final adjustments to the quantum drive modifications. The work was dangerous and highly illegal by coalition standards. The technology he was using didn't exist in any textbook. It came from somewhere else, from battles the coalition had never heard of. His hands moved carefully over the alien components hidden inside human-made housings. Each piece had been reverse-engineered from wreckage found in deep space. Wreckage from ships that didn't belong to any known species in the galaxy. "How are we looking, Dong-woo?" asked his assistant, Lee Jun-ki. "Almost ready," Dong-woo replied. "If we need full power, we'll have it. Do you think it'll come to that?" Dong-woo paused in his work. He had served on 3 different human ships, and he had seen things that would give coalition delegates nightmares. "I hope not," he said finally. "But humans don't build ships like this for parades." Above them on the bridge, Taeho made his decision. He turned to Somin. "Set course for the Kepler sector. Best speed." "Sir, our orders were to maintain patrol pattern." "I know what our orders were, Captain, but 800 Vrikari warships don't gather near human space to discuss the weather." Somin nodded and began giving orders to the navigation crew. The Defiant Dawn changed course, its massive engines pushing it toward what might be the most important confrontation in galactic history. As the ship accelerated, Taeho looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the Vrikari fleet was preparing for war. They thought they knew everything about human capabilities. They thought humans were just another weak species that had gotten lucky. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Defiant Dawn disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its secrets toward an uncertain future. Behind it, the galaxy continued its peaceful routine, unaware that everything was about to change.